Welcome to the Organic Wine Podcast. I'm Adam Huss, coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Thanks so much for listening. And a big thank you to those of you who have subscribed via Patreon. You make the show possible, and because of you, this podcast should really be called the Ecological Community Podcast, or something equally meaningful, to show that for every wild mushroom you find in the forest, there's a big network of interconnected beings who make its existence possible. Those unseen connections, how to protect and foster them, and the folks who are using their minds and hearts and bodies, their lives, to do the work of expressing the magic that can result from those connections, that's what this podcast is about. And that's what you Patreon subscribers make possible. And I'm humbled and filled with gratitude to be part of this interconnected community. If you'd like to support this podcast by subscribing to our Patreon, that link will be in the show notes and on the episode webpage at organicwinepodcast.com. My guest for this episode is Xaime Niembro of Vinos Barrigones. Vinos Barrigones translates to Paunchy Wines in English, though Google will translate it to Pot-bellied wines. And you'll hear Jaime's hilarious story of how the name Barrigon became the name for their wines and aesthetic. Xaime is using his Vinos Barrigones to regenerate his family's 6.5 hectare or 16-acre vineyard near Queretaro, Mexico. Queretaro is just a bit more than an hour north of Mexico City, and quality viticulture is possible here at this southern latitude because of the high elevation, 1,800 meters or close to 6,000 feet above sea level. Of course, that brings some unique challenges as well. And Xaime gives us a great explanation of how he makes wine with the climate to fit his culture and cuisine perfectly. We also talk briefly about the ciders Xaime is making and mezcal, which is where Xaime got his start in fermented beverages. One of the insights Xaime offered that has made me appreciate mezcal much more than I did was its possibility to express terroir. Unlike grain spirits, which are made with an annual crop, mezcal is made from a perennial plant that lives in the soil for years, sometimes decades, before harvest. This new way of seeing and appreciating mezcal has strangely affected my palate, and I've found myself actually enjoying it for the first time. I've had a decent bottle at home, of course. I mean, this is Los Angeles, but I've neglected it in my cabinet for years. After this interview, I immediately poured a glass for myself and loved every drop. And mezcal has been the only liquor I've ordered at a bar since. So there you go. A little mind-palate connection magic was made possible thanks to Xaime. So a big thanks to Xaime for expanding my world and for being the first Mexican wine producer on the podcast. There's an old and vibrant and growing wine culture in Mexico, and I hope to share more producers with you soon. Enjoy. Xaime, welcome. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Nam. It's a big pleasure.
I'm really excited to talk to you, not the least because you are my first Mexican interview. So that's very exciting for me. I'd love to. I've been, searching and so glad that we met at Raw. It was great to taste your stuff. And also there was a great panel on the sort of rise of Mexican, natural wine and the farming behind it. A lot of great producers now who are showcasing some of the unexpected and historic regions of Mexico. And I wonder if you could just start by talking about where, orient us to where you are in Mexico and actually where you are right now, like physically, where you're sitting.
Well, I will start by saying thank you very much for inviting us. It's an honor to be the first Mexican winemaker in speaking with you. So um, uh, I am from Querétaro. I was born and raised here in Querétaro, in Mexico. We are in the central part of Mexico. We are like 2 hours north of Mexico City. Querétaro, it's a very prosperous and very booming economic region in Mexico. Uh, and like 20 minutes from the city, which is a 2.5 million city, we have a wine county that it's growing year by year, and I say that there are so much great producers doing very cool stuff over here that I think
Yeah.
it's going to be one of the regions that in the next 10 years you're going to start listening a lot about this region and actually tasting a lot of amazing wines from this region. I really see this as the, it's gonna be very very hyped. We call it Bajío because we're very close also to Guanajuato, which is like 30 minutes from drive from here from Querétaro. So we always
Okay.
say that the wines from this region, Bajío, which is Querétaro and mostly Querétaro and Guanajuato, it's the next thing. I think there's so many amazing wines and also so many amazing producers from these regions that you're going to start hearing a lot from it.
Fantastic. Yeah. And what's the name of where are you right now? Like what
I,
I hear birds
I am,
chirping and
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm actually at the winery right now. So basically, our winery it's located like 20 minutes from Querétaro City, from
uh-huh.
downtown Querétaro. Um, we have 6.5 hectares of regenerative agriculture vineyard, and I'm right here right now. So all the
Nice.
birds that you hear, they're here in the winery. And actually, we were walking around the vines today in the morning, checking how the cover crops are, and I was like, well, I'll take this interview here in this nice area. I'll make
Perfect.
sure I'll send some pictures to you so
Okay,
you can
great.
actually see where I am at the moment.
Good.
But yeah,
Sounds like you
we are located at the central part of Mexico. So as I
yeah,
said before, if you fly to Mexico City, it's gonna be like an hour and 45 minutes drive to the winery,
got it.
which
Now,
is uh,
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
it's actually a very small drive from Mexico City. So we have a huge market like Mexico City, very very in a very easy drive. So we receive a lot of people from Mexico City on the weekends, and we can promote our wine. Which our wine it's we have a winery, a natural wine called Barrigones. That
Right, right.
we are actually we are a COVID project. I I I I have been involved in spirits for 13 years. I partnered up with a maestro mezcalero 13 years ago, and we started a brand called Gracias a Dios. And then during COVID, we were in Oaxaca, shut down. So we were not able to produce anything. So then my family owns 6.5 hectares of wineries. So basically in COVID, we didn't have anything to do. And I was like, I need to do something. So we start making some wine in some fermentation tanks, wood fermentation tanks that I borrow from our mezcal facilities in Oaxaca. So we brought the mezcal pine tanks into Querétaro, and we start producing red wine. Um, and that's how we
Fantastic.
started. So basically, we are a COVID project. Uh,
Yeah.
we we have 3 years making wine,
Right.
um, and I'll say that we are very fortunate that we have some great mentors, which are Branco and Natalia. They have a project here in Mexico called Cava Garambullo. They're located in San Miguel de Allende, which is 1 hour drive from where we are right now.
Okay.
And they taught us basically how to produce wine. And it was great because they're so smart and they're so full of knowledge that they make something so complicated and complex uh, very understandable, so we were able to produce wine, and good wine, drinkable wine, in the first year. I mean,
Right.
I always say that their school, they always say that there's not, there's no like this classification of wine. There's good wine and bad wine. That's it. And they're always saying that we should be able to make wine so people can enjoy. Because, and
Yeah.
honestly, that's what I say that we share with them. We think that wine it's something to actually I always say that it's like a social lubricant that it should make life easier. It
Yeah.
it should serve to actually relax. We already have a lot of problems. We already have a lot of things to worry. Wine should be something to distract you from that and to let you concentrate on having a good time and forget about whatever you have in your head. Just relax and enjoy. So for us, that's wine or spirits or whatever. It's something that you make to actually make people happier.
Yeah.
Then you
Now
have the
how
responsibility to make it the right way. So even though if you like it or you don't like our wine, it should have no defects. That's our opinion on how we make wine. So that's how we started the project under that vision.
yeah. Now how I feel very similar to you about that approach to wine. And for me that, that informs the way that I think about the farming and the social aspect of, everything that goes into it. Like I don't want the creation of wine at any level, from the vineyard through the culture that, and the agriculture practices, the farming practices, the labor practices. I don't want those to exploit anybody. I don't want those to ruin the land, because that would ruin my buzz. That would take away from my enjoyment of this thing that is supposed to be relaxing to me. How does that translate for you? I mean, is that a similar approach in the way that you think about that, or
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
does it start before the bottle with that approach, or how do you think about it in a
of
holistic
course,
sense?
it has to start before the bottle. Actually, it's not just a label and a bottle. This is, I always say that wines and spirits, they are agricultural projects. They are agricultural businesses, and so we should focus actually on the land. And if you focus on having good crops in the land, then you will have good products. I mean, then in the winery, in the distillery, you need to actually have good practices to actually respect that crops that you actually brought in this case, the grapes. So basically we're committed because on doing good practices with the land. And it's just not because it's, because it's getting fashion to be organic or, oh yeah, fair trade and all that. No, 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 this is actually our business. This is my business. I live from this. So I need to make sure that this is going to be sustainable in the long run. And in my opinion, we have a lot of examples that we have seen that the land in the long uh, terms, if you keep adding a lot of shit into it, fertilizers and everything, then you're going to have your land, it's going to get sick of it and it's going to just stop producing at some point. So we just want to make sure that this is going to be a not just one generation and not just 3 years. It can be as long as somebody's passionate about them and keep producing wine over here. Um, so basically, that's why we start producing this, and then also the fact that we share values with Branco and Natalia made everything very easy for us to get together and actually define a path for the how we were going to handle the vineyard with regenerative agriculture. And so basically, we have been doing this for 4 years, the regenerative agriculture, and we have 3 years doing wine. So basically,
Oh,
the first year was just a little bit detox of the vineyard, but then you cannot be
sure.
so aggressive. You cannot be very aggressive because then the vineyard is going to notice about that. So basically, the first year was like making things little by little, and then next year it was like, okay, let's move on. And actually, we were all very surprised on how nature works because it, they love it. The vines love the change, and they are getting stronger as every year they're getting better and better.
Yeah. So what are you doing? What are your practices? How did you start that transition, and how's it going now?
So basically, right now, for example, we have a program in which we are doing cover crops. Right now, we have different stations for the cover crops. We have benefic bacterias to treat any disease. Right now, for example, so far it's doing great, the vineyard, so we don't have any kind of problem. But for example, last year we have some diseases, so we brought some uh, good. You actually, I don't know how to say this in English, but if you have a bacteria, you know that there's some other bacteria that will actually uh, fight
Compete, like,
against that
yeah.
other bacteria. So we were actually trying to balance. what we do, and we always say that for a bad, there's always a remedy, and it should be a natural remedy. So basically, we manage that. Um, we manage the vineyard like that. We have cover crops. Um, we have been trying in this region. It's actually, let me make a pause over here and speak a little bit about the region. We are in a region. Querétaro, it's located, and most of the Bajío, it's located in a region where we are located at between 1800 to 1900 meters above sea level. So this is very high elevations, very high
Right.
elevation. So this has a lot of great stuff, but also a lot of issues of producing wine at this altitudes. So basically, for example, here in the vineyards, you're going to see that all the vineyards have nets, and a lot of people say, "Hey, are those nets for the birds, or what is the purpose of the nets?" And the nets over here are to protect the vines from the hail, because we,
Right.
in average, we receive like 3 or 4 hails right now in this season in May, during April, May, and June, when it's actually when the vines are actually developing, where they are actually getting all
Right.
the strength. So one hail um, without any net, it can destroy your vintage. It can just from
Right.
if you just nature, it's just it's
Yeah.
it's fast, and it can destroy anything. So it can destroy your vintage in 5 minutes. So basically, we
Yeah.
have this kind of stuff. Then we harvest during rainy season. Basically, the rainy season here in this part of Mexico, it's the same as a hurricane season. So basically, it starts in May and ends up in October. So that makes a very particular vintage, because we have to harvest in the middle of rainy season. And then we have,
Right.
some soils that they're not entirely for vines, because some of them are very rich, extremely rich in nutrients.
Mm.
So basically, it has a lot of particularities producing
Yeah.
wine in this region. And I think it's beautiful. And I always say that this is a great region for producing white wines, sparkling wines, and rosé, with a lot of acidity. And I think they just go great. We can talk a little bit more about this.
Yeah, yeah.
They're
I
perfect
wanted to
later on, but
jump in
I
and
think,
yeah, I
yeah,
just wanted to jump in and say for, the American audience that elevation is close to 6,000 feet, which is insane.
it is. It's a
Yeah.
high altitude. Yeah,
You're further south, so I think you get a little bit of moderation because of that, but you still have all of the variability of that altitude where you can get like, I mean, that's
yeah,
incredible.
yeah. Like
I'm sure it,
if you go to a map, we're actually a straight line to, I don't know, to Africa. So basically, I mean, there's no wineries in Africa. There's no wineries in this kind of latitude. So that's why we call it extreme viticulture here in El Bajío, because it's very untypical. It's not what you usually see. It's very
right.
south. We're very near
Yeah.
to the, yeah.
Yeah, and now if I'm not mistaken, a lot of the grapes that historically have come there because um, they were seen as it was seen as a good area to grow the grapes for Frisianet. Is that right?
Well, basically, well, let's start a little bit. Let's go back a little bit. You know that
Okay.
Mexico was when the Spaniards came into the Americas. Mexico was the first place in the Americas where vines were actually grown. So
Right.
we are the first place in the Americas where wine was produced. Um, and then this region, Querétaro, was very big on vineyards because of Martel. Martel was located over here, and they were producing actually
That-
brandy.
Got it.
Then Martel leaves like in the 80s, and then Freixenet came over here.
Got it.
And
Okay.
Freixenet started, I think, in 1982. They start producing, and we have all heard about Freixenet, and we all might have our opinions. The only thing I can say about Freixenet is that they are a huge angel a huge there's of so many help for the new vineyards and for the new winemakers in the region, because they're a big company, and
Yeah.
instead of looking for themselves, they're always looking on how they can actually support the small producers. And they know
Mm.
that if they support the small producers, the region is going to start growing, and if the region grows, they're going to have better business. So they have been very supportive, not only for us, for all the region. They are very, 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 I say that the region is getting prosperous and the region is growing because we have this kind of players in the industry that they're willing to help everyone else, not
Huh.
just thinking about what they, oh yeah, my wines and this. No, they're actually, let's support the small brands because they're making good stuff. Let's do it. So yeah, they're basically what the region needs nowadays. I will say that it will definitely not be possible if it was not for Freixenet, because it's not just that they have a vineyard. They have the vineyard. They are suppliers of bottles. They are suppliers of corks. They have a lot of technical um, expertise, and sometimes, like as I told you before, I have 3 years doing wine. There's a lot of things that I
Yeah.
still don't know, and I'm still trying to figure out. Even though I have Branco and Natalia advice, there's some other things that, for example, if I need something, I will call Luis. He's the CEO of Freixenet, and he will answer the phone and he will actually help me. So
Hmm.
basically, and this is what's going on with a lot of uh, new wineries over here. It's actually a very well communicated and very
Collaborative,
it's
like,
like a family. All the producers, or
yeah.
most of them, they're like a family. They're very united, and that's why I see that in a very short period of time, we have actually uh, achieved a lot that people here in Mexico, especially in Mexico City, are speaking about. Not only wines in Baja, in the north part of Mexico, also wines from El Bajío. And I think it's because of this, because it's not just that I go and I speak from I speak of my project. I go and I speak of all these projects, all these cool places that are making good wines. Um, and I think right now it's the moment to actually grow as a region. And if the region grows, then we are all gonna grow as as projects. So we are in that phase, which I think it's great. I wish it can stay like that forever.
Yeah, yeah. Fingers crossed. Do what
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can. No, but that's great, and I would love to get more into. So the winery, the wines that you make are the Barrigones. Is that right?
Barrigones.
Is,
Yeah,
I mean, please say it because I'm sure I am not
yeah.
the
It's
best pronouncer.
Barrigones. The brand is called
Barrigones,
Barrigones. It's
and that means potbelly or paunchy. Is that
punchy. Actually, the exact translation, it's punchy. Actually,
punchy?
it's a very funny story.
I
Um,
was gonna ask. Yeah.
yeah, it's actually it was funny because we have a restaurant here in the winery, and we had a mascot, which was a how you say un borrego,
I can start looking this stuff up.
lamb. It was a lamb,
Oh,
and it
okay.
was a mascot, and it was in the offices. It was in the restaurant. He loved to be pet, and he was walking around, and his name was Barrigon, like Punchy. And
Got it.
so this guy, so we created, so we were like, how long does this lamb lives? And they were like, yeah, this amount of time. So we were like, oh yeah, enough to have a brand to to call the brand after him. So we
Right.
started the branding and all that, and then one day we were like 1 month to start producing the wine, and he committed suicide.
Oh no.
Yeah, well,
No.
that's a funny story, but he didn't commit suicide. He was in his house, and he got his necklace got uh, like stuck in something, and he actually
He
how
hung
you say
himself. Got
yeah,
hung.
So he
Yeah.
died. So we always said
Uh,
because of the pressure of being a rock star of wine that he committed suicide. No, but really, we were very sad. It was like a big shock
yeah.
for all
No.
people that
I'm
work in
sorry.
the
That's
restaurant.
it. Is a.
And
It's a sad
it
and hilarious
is sad.
story.
I mean,
The
I'm
way you
very
tell it.
sarcastic. We were very sad. And basically, we were like, fuck, what we're going to do with the brand? And then
Right.
we already had, the trademark and all the branding and the colors. So we were like, so what we should do? So we were like, okay, let's overcome this, and so we start uh, making drawings of the people that works in the winery, like the accountant, the administration, the marketing, the designer, of course, the winemaker, the people that work in the fields, in the wine, in the vines, and all that, the chef of the restaurant, everybody from the restaurant. So we started just making everyone fat and putting them in the labels. And this
Right.
represents for us like I mean nothing should be perfect, and there's no perfect. Like we just have, I think we have stereotypes on things, and it should not be like that.
Mm.
Like you can be so different here in Querétaro than what you have in Spain, and you should not judge both of them because of what they are supposed to be. Everyone it's a something unique, and everyone it's something different. So we were like, yeah, let's make something that calls for an unperfect piece of art, and that's how we see the wine, and that's why we actually uh, put uh, punchies on the labels, and it's all people that work over here. It's all people involved in the project. So that's a little bit about the story of behind Barrigones.
I love it.
Uh,
Do you, can I ask you, are you a student of Botero? Do you
no,
know
I'm
his,
not actually. No, as no, it was
you know who I mean? You know
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
artist?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Botero,
yeah.
he's from Colombia, and it was a coincidence, but we were
Yeah, right.
actually looking for actually go after a Botero style of
Right.
Barracones. We were actually, if
That's great. It
if
might
you look at
you're
Instagram, you are actually gonna see that the label we upload every time that we release a new wine. We upload like who's the person that it's being drawing,
oh, gotcha. Right,
so
right.
you can
Like the
see
real person and then
face.
the caricature kind of thing.
Exactly. Last week we
Yeah.
upload, for example, Anna. She's the finance girl, and she's the new label of the orange wine.
Oh,
So
nice.
even though she's very skinny and she's always in the gym, well, over here she's not. So
Right, right.
it's
Well,
also
yeah, and your one of your labels might be the first examples of a butt crack that I've or a plumber's crack that I've seen on a wine label.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I
And
and
then
I joke that I think the plumber's crack is the cleavage for the man,
yeah,
but that I don't know if that
yeah,
translates
yeah.
very well, but
No, and you know what? I always say that. I mean, sometimes wine can be very pretentious. Uh, I always
yeah,
put the example of like whenever you're gonna open a bottle of wine, like it's always like who's gonna taste it, who's
right.
gonna taste it, who's gonna see if it's okay, who's gonna
Yeah,
take that responsibility. And I might like it, but if the rest of the table is not gonna like it, then I already you know make a mistake, and it should not be like that.
right,
I always compare it with beer. Nobody get nervous after opening
right.
a bottle of beer. It's so casual, it's so easy drinking beer. I think wine should be like that,
Yeah,
and that's why we're actually the labels are very colorful, very playful with the as you say the crack on
the plumber's crack.
so the
I think.
bumper crack. So we are trying to make the wine more approachable and more even funny, like
Yeah,
making
yeah,
fun and don't get me wrong, because we know how much effort and how much work it's in every bottle. It's
yeah,
not about making um, how you say, demerit, or not giving the
Right, right. I
the
know what you're saying. I'm
what
trying to think
deserves
of the right word.
the
Right.
wine production. By no means we're trying to go that way, because I see, for example, every year we're becoming better and better with, and I can taste it in our wines. And then we're like, I can't imagine if we were 50, if this project was 30 years, the things that we should be doing. Like, and then that's when you start appreciating the experience and the tradition of making wine. We're
Yeah.
trying to get there, but at the same time, we're trying to make it easier for people to actually start drinking wine, and especially in a country where people don't drink wine, because the average consumption of wine in Mexico, it's still very low.
Right.
We just overtook Spanish wine like 4 years ago, as the Mexican wine overtook Spanish wine as the most consumed wine in the country like 4 years ago. So we're talking that this
Right.
is a new thing. So we need to make sure that our consumer feel comfortable to actually start trying wines, so our
Yeah.
industry can actually start growing. So that's actually what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to
That's
achieve,
great.
to make good wines, healthy wines, um, funny wines, colorful wines, because at the end we also see that this is a reflect of who we are, of our culture. I think that we are, the Mexican culture is like that. You can see it in our gastronomy. It's playful, it's colorful, it's so diverse, and it should be like, wine should be like that.
Yeah. Yep. I let me ask you some, if you don't mind. I love
Yeah,
everything you're saying. I just want to go back before we move on
sure.
to the wines and stuff. Um, you brought up the fact that you're getting most of your rain in these during the growing season,
Yeah.
right? So how does that affect your mildew pressures? I know you guys are growing vinifera, so you're growing a lot of Spanish
Mhm.
varieties, things that are
Yeah.
grown in cava for cava. So how do you how do you manage that with a spray program? What are you using to control for that? What's that like when you get to harvest and you're getting tons of rain? How are you? Is that why the sort of low acid early ripening whites or high acid whites are doing well? Can you just sort of talk about how that all works out in your farming and what that results in with the wine, especially at harvest?
This is talking about barrigones. What we're doing is that we're doing early harvest. So we have low proof wines with a very bright acidity.
Hmm.
And basically, what we have is that during the and this is most of the times, because you know it's never the same. But basically, between July the 25th to August the 10th, we're gonna harvest everything.
Wow. Yeah.
Usually, that by that time, we already have the breaks around the 2022,
Okay.
and then we have a right pH, so we are actually harvesting by pH. Um,
Okay. Yep.
Whenever the pH is it's right, we're going to harvest. Um, Most of our wines have a bright acidity. They're very uh, fruital, low ABV alcohol, low ABV wines. So we always say that this is a perfect wine for Mexican food. I don't see. I love tacos, and I eat tacos on a daily basis, and I don't see myself eating a taco with salsa and a lot of spices, with a
A big
full
red.
body red with a lot of barrel. No, I see myself eating that taco with a light, crispy, bright acidity white wine. So we
Yeah.
are focused. Basically, we as Barrigones, 80 between 80 to 85% of our production, it's going to be whites, orange, and rosé,
Uh-huh.
because we think that this region, it's a great region for this kind of wines,
Yeah.
for lightly body whites and roses that go perfectly with our weather. Because I mean, in Mexico, we don't have a, well, in most of Mexico, we don't have, strong winters. Like
Yeah.
our winter in the day weather in winter, it's like high 60s, and that's
Right.
the coolest it gets. And probably you
Right.
will have like 10 days of like going in the 50s or 40s, but that's it. Like,
Yeah.
we this is a country, and this is a gastronomy that, in our opinion, and then all that I'm saying, it's what we think as Barrigones. This is a
Right.
personal opinion from
Sure.
who's behind this winery. So I'm not saying that applies to everyone, but um, in my opinion, and we do wines for Mexican food, for Mexican weather, for our culture, for who we are, because
Yeah.
this is where we drink and this is where we live. So that's why we're making wines like this. So it basically we are, when it becomes to the harvest season, we are like we become weather channel freaks because we're checking the weather every day.
Sure. Yeah.
And as soon as we see like a window of sunny days, like if we see that it's gonna be like 4 days, 5 days of sun, boom, we go and then we check all the vines and then we decide. So basically everything is changing from one day to another one. So I bet it's the same everywhere. Uh,
Yeah.
but basically we are always checking the weather and we're always checking the vineyards. We're always with the vines checking every day different locations, and then we will actually start producing. It's not that we have like we go with the flow. Actually, we go with however the vineyard wants us to go, we'll go that way. So basically, for example, last year we started with Charello um, production because we were doing a sparkling wine with Charello. So basically we started with a Charello, but then we usually the previous 2 years we were always going first white vines and then the reds. And last year, no, we actually we got the Charello, and after we harvested the Charello, we went straight to the um, to the Grenache to make a rosé because it
Yeah.
was already good. So with this, we don't have like sorry, we don't have something like very planned. We just go as the vines tell us to go, and we usually try to avoid the heavy rains from late August. In August and September, there's a lot of heavy rains, so we try to be done by the 10 or 12 of August. So we avoid that heavy rains that come at the
Got it.
late August to try to avoid some diseases from a lot of humidity. That a
Right.
lot of the
Yeah.
most of
What are
the
you?
vineyards, they wait to actually have more bricks, more on the vines.
But they risk the all that end of
A
season
lot of them
moisture.
they risk, and then they can intervene the wines in the winery
Got
because
it.
they're natural wine. So basically, what we do with this, it's try to avoid to get, probably we're not gonna have high ABV wines because of this reason, but we are happy to produce whatever we can produce that it's actually a good wine.
Now, are you what it? So you are getting rain during the growing season quite a bit, though, too, right? I mean, is it constant? It's sort of a monsoon climate in that sense. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's actually funny because before it was different. It was like some rains in
Mm.
May, which, for example, nowadays we haven't had any rain here in the Vineyard.
Oh wow.
We just had one in April, and it was a little bit of hail and rain, but it was nothing that actually, it was like just like it actually moisture like probably 2 inches. So it was like
Right.
just nothing. And
Okay.
then it says that it's gonna rain today, so I hope that it rains, but it
Yeah.
has actually rained. Um,
So
we
do you? I
usually
mean,
have some rains in May, then some in June, and then at the beginning of July we're gonna have like 20 days of heavy rain, and then we usually have like 1 month without rain. That's when we actually harvest.
got it.
It's it
Strange. Yeah.
calls they call it here that it's a like a, a, a heat wave that comes in at the beginning of August, and it's
Yeah.
usually like a month. So that's when we concentrate to actually harvest. The thing is that most of the vineyards, they're looking for more uh, yield on the vine, so they're looking for going in breaks at 25, 26. But
Ah.
we don't we will actually you know, go as far as further as we can. But if pH it's getting compromised, we will cut the grapes. So we're looking for pH of 3.2, something around there.
Right, right. Now, in terms of spraying during that growing season, I mean, do you have to deal with downy mildew? I mean, I'm just curious, like, what your viticulture practices have to be like to accommodate those kind
we
of
we
things.
we haven't had any problem of in the last 3 years, and when we have had some issues, we use benefic bacteria, and it has actually worked pretty good.
Well, fantastic.
So yeah,
Sounds
I mean,
lovely.
we have we incorporate, we have our own compost here in the vineyard. We use all the organic materials from the restaurant. For example, we save all the egg shells and all the bones from the fishes that we serve in the restaurant, and then all the poops from our goats and cow. We have a cow, machaca. We have a
Uh-huh.
horse, pinto. So we combine all that. We make compost, and then we incorporate it into the vineyard. We use guano, which is how you say
Bat
bats.
bat
Uh,
bat poop, yeah.
yeah, bat poop, and then we use humus, which is how you say, like the lombrices, like
Yeah,
the
what is
lombrices.
what is that?
It's well, like the worms that live,
Oh,
long.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Vermipost. Yeah,
Yeah,
vermicompost.
we
Like
use
yeah.
that. So basically, the eggshells bring a lot of potassium, and also the bones
Yeah.
from the fish. And then this year we started with nopalinaza, which is nopal, fermented nopal.
Yeah.
So I mean, we put to
Wait,
the
how do you
vine.
use them? Wait a second. You ferment the nopal to make like a tea for the like
Exactly.
as a
So
what
basically,
a
you cut the
great
nopales,
use.
you shred them, and then after
Uh-huh.
you shred them, you put some water on it, and you let them ferment. You filter them, well, just with a regular filter, and then you
Yeah.
just put it on the
I'm
vines. I
I'm
mean,
that's amazing. What is that beneficial for? What does it do? What does it have in it?
but it has a lot of nutrients that will actually help balance the vines, and
Uh-huh.
and actually we have we're very lucky because our vineyard has irrigation, so we can actually put in a very efficient way all these nutrients into the vines. So we need to have
Oh
irrigation
yeah, so
for
you're
this
like
reason.
fertigating or
Exactly.
nice. Now, I mean, I make wine with the tunas of the nopal.
Oh
So
yeah,
I
yeah,
like
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I love that plant. I mean, I love that cactus.
It's amazing. Me too.
The whole thing is useful, and this is another use that I'd never even heard of, but it makes total sense, and I'm so glad
we
you shared that.
we have a friend that produced this fertilizer in Durango, and it's very rich on a lot of nutrients. I don't remember all of the nutrients that it incorporates.
I wonder if it's like a the desert version of like a seaweed or a kelp meal kind of thing that because a lot of people here on the coast use kelp like a kelp fertilizer or seaweed fertilizer for certain nutrients that are often lacking. And
I
I wouldn't be surprised if there were some similarities there, but like if you can't have access to an ocean and kelp and don't want to ship seaweed thousands of miles, maybe you're in a place where you can grow nopal and
I know
make
it has a
your
lot of nitrogen and a lot of potassium, but
yeah.
I don't remember. I mean, I will
Okay.
need
No, this
to.
is great. This is great. We'll look into it. I mean, well, this is homework for everybody to go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
And
I mean, it's just
I have
a
I have the all the technical analysis on this, so I can send it to you later on, and you'll see that it has micro components and make micro, so it's very very full of nutrients for the
oh,
soils.
great. Yeah,
We
if you want to
use
send that, I'll share it if you'll allow me to share it
Yeah, yeah,
on the
yeah, for
website
sure.
so anybody can take a look at that. That's
This is
very
something
cool.
that we use in agave, in our agaves in Oaxaca.
Oh,
The
you use the
producer
no.
of this product is from Durango, but we have been buying from them to produce in Oaxaca our
Okay.
agave.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other show that we could do. I would love to talk about your mezcal, but I wanted to ask because I noticed that you guys do sidra de manzana. Is that right?
Oh yeah, yeah. We also do some cider
Uh
because
huh.
basically a lot of people start saying, the rumors started over here in this region that, oh yeah, they have a distillery and they're producing also wine. So this producer of apples, like she has her apple plantations like 1 hour from where we are. She was like, "Hey, can
Okay.
I bring all the leftover apples that they're actually starting to get a little bit rotten, and can you make a spirit from it?" And we were like, "Yeah." So she brought apples, and we start. The first thing that we produced was schnapps or carvados, and
Okay.
they were amazing. It was amazing actually. And then next year we started
Right.
producing cider, and it was fantastic. And the cider was aged on whiskey barrels,
Uh
so
huh.
it was very good. And then we produced 2 barrels of cider every year. And last year we produced it was a combination of apples from from La Sierra Norte in Oaxaca and apples from Querétaro. So
Huh.
basically, I mean, this is Barrigon. It's a project under the company. It's called Jummy Wines and Spirits of Mexico. So
Uh huh.
basically, what we're doing, it's like we're trying to bring together good producers of any fermentable sugar in Mexico and produce spirits and fermented beverages. So
Yeah.
that's actually the project. That's we started like that, and then suddenly we were doing wine because of I don't know, because we met Branco and Natalia, because my family still has a vineyard. So it was a lot of things that actually got together to actually be where we are producing
Yeah.
wine. But at the beginning, it was like just like we see a distillery and a winery as a kitchen. You can produce in a kitchen. You can do Greek food. You can do Japanese. You can
Yeah.
do Mexican. It's a matter of having technique, having
Yeah.
good products, and having someone that can actually guide you through doing good Japanese food, good Mexican food.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do over here. Like, we
Yeah.
are by no means experts on doing wine or doing cider, but every time we're doing something new, we make sure that we have someone that it's an expert on doing so, and we can get advice from them. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah. I saw you had the agave gin as well. Is that right?
Yeah, we have an agave gin made out of espadin in Oaxaca, and
Oh.
it's actually it was
Es-
like
Espadin is the shorter grow, like it's 7 years to maturity. Is that right?
between 7 to 9 years. Yeah,
Seven to
and it
nine. Okay.
has it's more efficiently. It has more sugars, more concentrated sugars than for example a wild agave or like a tobala, rather than a tobala that it's smaller, has less sugars. So basically, yeah, an espadin it's more efficient to produce.
And
Uh,
the ones that are what are the ones that take the longest time, like the 20-year agaves? What are
Tepestates will be taking Tepestates and Karwinskis like Quiche. It will take like around 18 to 25 years. So
wow. Is that does that reflect in the price of the bottle? So if you're getting a more expensive
it does.
tequila, it's because it was probably made with one of those longer, slower growers.
It does. It actually changed the. It's not just that it changed the flavor.
Right.
It also changes the price, because less or more efficiency,
Right.
because a lot of hand labor. A wild agave, you need to go into the mountains and bring it to the distillery. A cultivated agave, well, you have your agave farms, and you just go pick them up, take it to the distillery. While wild agave, you just have to go sometimes with mules to the to
Sheesh.
the mountains and bring them. So yeah, it will affect a lot on the price. And sometimes they're very expensive, and sometimes a lot of people, they don't understand how much effort, how much time it's inside each bottle. It's like I
Yeah.
always say, when I'm speaking about mezcal, a lot of people compares it with, oh, so this is better than a single malt or not. And I always say, like, I mean, they're all good spirits. The thing is that one of the difference that mezcal has with most of the of the
Grainy
other
spirits. And
spirits, it's that the
yeah.
mezcal ages in the soil, in the earth. So what you should be actually appreciating in every single bottle of mezcal, it's whatever that plant absorbed from the soil from 9 to 25 years. That's what you
Right.
should be tasting, and that's actually what I love about mezcal and wine, because I think they're very similar one to each other. At least
Yeah.
natural wine, organic wines, the flavors, most of it, come from the soil. You are drinking whatever that vine absorbed during that year,
Yeah.
during that vintage, and that's what you're drinking. And
Yeah.
that's why we are into this kind of wines, into natural wines, because we think it's a real and a true expression of a terroir, of the land. You're not drinking something that somebody actually go and bought a lot of artificial flavors and did the wine in a lab. No, that's not the point. The point is to actually taste whatever the terroir tastes, to be able to
Right.
appreciate that. So that's why I think wine and mezcal, like, I think they're very resemble. And then you
Yeah.
have a lot of different agaves, you have a lot of different grapes, and then you have, it's not the same an espadín from Oaxaca than an espadín from Durango. It's not the same a French Cabernet Sauvignon than a Mexican Cabernet Sauvignon. Each one is going to have their own expression, and it's going to be a unique piece of art. That's the
Yeah.
beauty about this kind of spirits, that they're not standardized products. They will always be something different. They will always be a surprise.
Yeah.
Rather, whether you like it or not, they will always be something new. They will be there's always going to be a surprise on it.
Yeah. I like that too. That's well said. Now, can you talk about some of your wines and yeah, just anything that I mean, you already talked a little bit about them, but anything else that I mean, are there any that you want to particularly talk about just to give a sense of the what you've got?
Yeah, well, we, as I told you before, we are very focused on making white wines. So
Okay.
basically, and white wines, because I truly think that white wines are perfect for tacos. I mean, honestly, it's
Fantastic.
just, it's like, I always
I
say that Mexican wine should be like Mexican beer. Think about the
Yeah.
Mexican beers. They're all
Yeah. Light.
light
Yeah.
lagers,
Yeah.
meant to, drink very cold. And
Yeah.
that's, in my opinion, that has a reason. And for me, the reason is because of the weather that we have, and because of the food that we have.
Yeah.
Because our food has a lot of spices and it's very spicy. So I don't see myself with red wine
Yeah.
eating Mexican food. So that's why we focus on white wines, bright acidities. We have, for example, we have a Charelo and Macabeo. We have a lot of grapes that come from Spain, especially because the vine supplier here in this region, it's Freixenet,
Right.
and they produce a lot of cavas. And so basically, here in the vineyard, we have Charelo, Macabeo. We have a little bit of Parrillada, which are the three main grapes in order to make cava.
Uh-huh.
We have Tempranillo, we have Garnacha, we have Cabernet Sauvignon, and we have Merlot. A little bit of
Okay.
Malbec and a little bit of Albarino. That's it. So basically, with we produce Charelo, 100% Charelo. Then we produce 100%, 50-50 Charelo Macabeo. Then we produce also, we bring from a vineyard of a friend in Guanajuato, we bring a little bit of Muscatel.
Huh?
We produce an orange wine that it's 50% Muscatel and 50% Charelo. We produce 100% orange with Charelo. We produce Charelo with Albarino. Uh,
Mm.
and then we produce rosé that it's with Garnacha and a little bit of Tempranillo, like 60% of Garnacha and 40% of Tempranillo. I love the rosé that we do. It's very fresh, but it also has a little bit of body. It's perfect. I always say that it's perfect for any Mexican food, even for moles. Then our orange wines are that's something that actually, for example, the first orange wine that we did, I think it was the best one that we have done so far.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 years that we have done orange, I think we're still missing something from the first one. The first year, since we were very innocent and we didn't knew how to do a lot of do wine, we were actually not taking care a lot of not taking that much care of our wines. So we left the orange wine and the extraction was so heavy. And then
Mm.
the next years, since we're very proud fathers of our wines, we were taking some, we were, I think we were very overprotected with orange wine. And it's not making distractions that we think we got in the first one. So we were actually we every time every year that we do, we have like a diary that we write everything that we do on daily basis on on the vintage. So 2 weeks before we start producing wine, we read all that notebooks, and then we start like, we should do this year, we should change that, blah blah blah. So basically, this year we know we're gonna just let the orange be a little bit independent and not as dependent of his parents this year. Maybe we can get the result this year. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
I mean, and
But-
this doesn't mean that we don't like the wine. It's that when you try the three of them, you see that the first year, sorry, that the first year was by far the best year of our orange wine.
Huh.
So base, and then we have some red wines. We have some Tempranillo with Malbec. We have some Tempranillo with Cabernet Sauvignon, and we have some Tempranillo with a blend of the three of them: Tempranillo, Cabernet Sauvignon, and Malbec. So basically, um, it we what how we do it is that we produce, and then we usually do co-fermentations when we have this kind of stuff, and they just co-ferment and go all the cycle together. The one that was Malbec and Tempranillo, it was a blend that we did in the winery, because we were thinking that the Malbec was very powerful and the Tempranillo was a little bit lacking of a structure. So we blend them and we love it. It was perfect. The Tempranillo has quite a bright acidity, and Malbec had a lot of body. So we actually combine it, and we think it was a very good wine, the one we have. So we always said that we do wines to consume today, where our wines are not meant um, to oh yeah, I'm gonna save it for my kid's wedding. No, no, no. It's something to drink today with your friends, and cook something nice and enjoy it today. So that's what we're trying to do.
Nice. Yeah. Well, and we can see all this at vinosbarrigones.com, vinosbarrigones. Is there anywhere else that you would send people to learn more or get a sense of what you're up to? And
Yeah, we're very active on Instagram, Vinos
okay,
Barrigones also,
okay,
and we're always uploading like the daily stuff that it's happening in our vineyard and in our where we are. So we're very active. We upload mostly on daily basis stuff, so you can actually go over there. You can go to beso.com in you can buy the wines in the US over there, and
oh,
you're always welcome to Querétaro and try not only our wines but also all the wines that are being produced here in the region. I guarantee that people that come over here, actually some friends of mine that they came from Napa Valley a couple months ago, they were very surprised on how good the wines over here were, and they were like, "We never heard anything about wines in the central region of Mexico because all we hear it's about Baja." And don't get me wrong, I love
Yeah.
Baja wine, but we're also producing so cool stuff over here that it's like you never see like, oh no, I'm not drinking, I'm just drinking French wine. No, that's a cool part of wine, that you drink wines from Germany, you drink wines from uh, Spain and Australia and New Zealand. You drink wines from everywhere because you want to see how everyone it's has their own way of doing things, and then it's beautiful because it's something that you can actually enjoy.
Yeah. Well,
So yeah,
it
you're
looks like,
always welcome to visit us. We also have a great cheese producers over here.
ooh, okay. And also I just want to give a shout out to Patrick Neri of Patrick Neri Selections,
Yeah,
because he helped coordinate us, and he's got MexicanWine.us as a place where it looks like your wines are also highlighted and probably available here in the US for purchase for anybody
indeed.
looking for that. Well, cool. Thanks so much, Jaime. I really appreciate you talking about. Is there anything else? Any final words that you want to mention, or did we cover everything?
I think we pretty much cover everything, but I mean, I will
Right.
say thank you very much for the opportunity of speaking about Mexican wine, and of course from wine from Querétaro, and of course of Barrigones. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. And if you did and would like to support this podcast, please do. There is a Patreon link in the show notes where you can subscribe with a monthly, very low subscription to add monetary support. Or please subscribe on your feed, wherever you listen to this podcast. Subscribe and follow this podcast so that you will automatically download it when each new episode comes out. That's one of the few metrics that we can measure to see the support and listenership of this. And otherwise, if you're already listening, subscribe, supporting, whatever, just a long-time listener, haven't done anything, please do a review. If you would, any positive review with 5 stars and a nice word is fantastic and helpful, and really improves the algorithmic performance of this podcast. So thank you so much.